and are not endorsed by this station. Opinions expressed are not necessarily those of radio station KMET, its management, employees, or affiliates.
It's time to steer the line.
Touchdown!
Sports betting, fantasy football, and the latest NFL news. Featuring Loudesmond, Christian Giordani, Rocky Giordani, and Jeremy James. Bet on us to make you a better bettor. Let's get ready to steer the line.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another segment of Steer Line. I'm your host, Christian Giordani. Alongside of me, we have Loudesmond, our professional sports handicapper, and Rocky Giordani, our ex-professional athlete. Fellas, hell of a first round yesterday. Before we go into it, there's two contracts I just want to get out of the way really quick just to update. Amon-Ra St. Brown agreed to a 4-year contract extension worth up to $120 million. That's $77 million guaranteed. He was the highest annual paid wide receiver in the NFL for about 7 minutes. And then A.J. Brown got his own contract extension worth 3 years, $96 million.
So Amon-Ra St. Brown with the
Lions
and
A.J. Brown with the Phillies.
Right. Phillies.
Eagles.
Eagles. Sorry, baseball season's up and away. Yeah, baseball's in mind. But yeah, $96 million for 3 years, $84 million guaranteed. A.J. Brown is now the highest annual paid player in NFL history. For those who want to do the math, I haven't done it yet. Loud comments.
Did he do anything for Philadelphia last year?
Last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was still a top 5 receiver in the league.
Yeah, I just somehow missed him having an all-pro season.
He did miss about 3 games last year. He had 2 real quiet games as well, but he's still a top 5 receiver.
He stepped up towards the end of the season. He was like their go-to guy, yeah.
I'm just so glad Amon-Ra St. Brown finally got his payday done.
Yeah.
The Lions get to keep a guy who's a top 5 to top 7 wide receiver in the league. Rocky, how do you feel about Jared Goff throwing Amon-Ra St. Brown for the next 4 years?
Listen, I'm excited about that too. I'm glad he stayed. I hope San Francisco works something out with Ayuk as well. I think you got to keep your number 1 guys around. You know, this guy's going to be super in the future for Detroit, and I think he was a super integral, important part of that offense. They could not give up. I'm glad he stayed.
Super duper.
All right,
Jared's
fellas.
my boy, Jared, my boy.
A lot to talk about in just under 30 minutes, and let's get right into it. The NFL draft started last night. We're not going to get too much in the first top 3. We already basically knew what was going to happen. Caleb Williams in 1, Jaden McDaniel at 2, and Drake May at 3. I think that includes Marvin Harrison as well, going 4th. And then I think the Los Angeles Chargers did a really good job drafting Joe Alt. I think we all agreed was going to be the
the best. He is a 10-year, 15-year pro and 50% chance he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Yeah, I think what they did was the right thing. They just said, look, let's address all our needs. But right now, let's just take the best player on the board. And at that point, I think Joe Alt was the best player left after Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the future of all the quarterbacks that went in the first round? Because I think there's going to be some big differences between how all these first-round quarterbacks do, not only based on their own talent, but based on the situation they're going into.
Yeah, the system's huge.
Just off the very top, Caleb Williams.
I think Caleb Williams going to the best situation out of any of the quarterbacks in this draft. He's getting DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, an upgraded offensive line, and then Romeo Odunze, I believe. Yeah, Romeo Odunze as well.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably has one of the best wide receiver trios in the league.
I have concerns about Caleb Williams long term. I've laid him out there before, which is I wasn't crazy about him following his coach and leaving his players to go to USC from Oklahoma. And then I certainly wasn't crazy about him basically shutting it down for the last few games of the season when he was at USC, once they were eliminated from contention. for a national championship. And by the way, as a Notre Dame fan, I watched that game he played against Notre Dame, which was the best defense he faced that season, and he threw 5 interceptions. He was horrific in that game. That game alone would have given me pause. I mean, everybody can have a bad day, but that was horrible. Rocky.
Yeah, I've never made it any secret that I don't think that highly of Caleb Williams. Matter of fact, I don't like him much at all. I don't think he's going to do well. I know Christian. I think you're right. As far as situational goes, he went to the best team, the best system that he might be able to flourish in. I just don't trust him. I can't stand a guy who will sandbag because he don't want to get injured and hurt his draft chances. You know, once he gets paid, once he starts making money, he lays down. Anybody, I'd take 10 guys. I'd take a Jared Goff who will hustle and play himself to death every day over anybody else who would.
Yeah, and that's why.
You coaching my team for a decade plus. I've heard that speech a lot of times.
And you know, that sounds a lot like why you love Derek Carr.
Jesus.
Yeah, you know, Derek Carr's going to play.
He'll play. You know what? I'll give you that.
You got to give the devil his dues.
I'll give you that. Derek Carr is a competitor.
Drake May in New England, Christian.
The best pick.
I think he's arguably the 1-2 best quarterback in this draft. We all know how I feel about JJ McCarthy, but aside from that, he's going to a good historic franchise. What he's walking into next season,
he's walking into a buzzsaw.
Yeah, no receiver last
suck.
year. This is the thing. No receiver last year had 600 plus receiving yards. No one even whiffed 1,000 yards. They didn't have nowhere near 1,000-yard rusher. Their offensive line was terrible. He is going to get thrown into the fire, and we'll see if he survives.
The next quarterback off the board was the shocker of the night.
Oh, man.
Michael Penix Jr.
Did we just glaze over Jaden Daniels?
Yeah.
We did. We did because Jaden Daniels
He won two.
Yeah, he went to Washington, and I think we all agree, great upside athletically, but it's another team that is like meh. So
he's got a good. He has a better shot at succeeding in his rookie year than Drake May does.
Yeah, because Drake May's got nothing.
Yeah.
So then we go to the shocker of the night, which was Michael Penix to Atlanta. And this was a shocker because Atlanta brought in Captain Cousins.
Yeah.
You know, you like that? You like that? I've always liked Kirk Cousins. And by the way, his agent should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Yeah. This boy make money.
Boy, daddy bags, man.
And he's not getting in Cole's cash, that's for sure.
Dude, he's going to end up being one of the highest paid players
ever
in the history of the NFL.
He's the 17th.
Ever won a playoff game.
Right.
No.
Never.
No. But he's the 17th highest paid athlete of all time.
I know. It's crazy.
It's nuts.
He's already made more money than Tom Brady made in his whole career.
Okay. But going on to Michael Penix Jr., can we agree, and no knocks on Michael Penix Jr. and his talent, this was a dumb pick for Atlanta. He's a 25-year-old rookie going to sit behind a guy who has 4 years on his contract. He's going to be almost 30 by the time he starts.
I absolutely disagree, and here's why.
Okay, let's hear it.
How many teams last year lost their starting quarterback?
A lot.
10.
Yeah.
10.
That's a third. That's almost a third. I understand.
Okay, so Kirk Cousins is coming off an Achilles. He's 38. Man, if Michael Penix is my insurance policy, and here's the thing, they don't have to pay him more than like $1 million a year for 4 years. And look at how many teams are screwed because they didn't have an option, Daniel Jones, and ended up overpaying Dak Prescott. And now they're screwed in terms of their options because they had to overpay because they didn't have an option. Atlanta owes Kirk Cousins no guaranteed money after the second season.
Is that right, Christian? He gets
After
100
this,
million guaranteed, right?
There's guaranteed money for 2 years, and then they have an option to just dump him.
Yeah.
And he'll be 40 years old.
He'll be 40. But even then, Michael Penix Jr. will be 27 years old. A guy who theoretically, let's say everything goes.
Then if he plays as long as Kirk Cousins, you have him for 13 years.
But that's still, you could have drafted younger. JJ McCarthy was right there. He's 21, 22
But
years old.
maybe they don't think he's as good.
That's the thing. Okay, but aside from this, Michael Penix Jr. is going to get paid $5.5 million every year for the next 4 years. Let's say he only rides out half of that Kirk Cousins contract that's guaranteed for 2 years. After that third season, they're going to have to decide if they want to pick up that $20 million fifth-year option on a kid who hasn't started a single year.
But we don't know that. We don't know that. What we know is a third of the teams last year were without their starting quarterback for the rest of the season at some point. So I think having an available really good, because look at Atlanta, what they have otherwise. Can anybody say that they don't have a great running back? No,
they have a good offensive room.
They've got a great receiving core. They've got an emerging defense. They've got a good offensive line. In most cases, if your starting quarterback goes down, you're screwed. The Brock Purdy story is the exception. So I think personally, NFL teams going forward would be smart to do what the Falcons just did, which is, we have our veteran quarterback who's in place, but we have an option behind him that's a realistic option if anything goes bad. Rocky, as an old guy, how do you think?
Yeah, okay. Well, I haven't watched that much of Michael Penix Jr. I don't have a lot of faith in left-handed starters, but all that said, there's a lot to be said for the guys that were sitting in that room making that decision. I think Loud has hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what they're thinking. However, Kirk Cousins has been pretty durable over the years, I think. He hasn't missed a lot of games, but he is getting a little long in the tooth. And I guess it makes sense when you think like that. If they didn't have another position that they needed to address, then you take the best player on the board. I think that's what they decidedly did. I think they took the best guy on the board, in their opinion, at the time. Now, I'm with Christian. I think J.J. McCarthy would be a better option, but obviously they like Michael Penix better. It doesn't matter, 6 1 half dozen the other. They took a quarterback for all the reasons Loud just extrapolated on. I think that's exactly what they were thinking. Couldn't have been nothing else. I was scratching my head, but, that makes sense, Mr. Desmond.
All right, J.J. McCarthy to the Vikings. What kind of sit-up is he in, Christian?
You know what? He's going to be playing with the best wide receiver in football if, Justin Jefferson
a great
stays.
Running game, too.
Yeah, stays another year. Great running game. Brings Aaron Jones. He has T.J. Hawkinson, the top 5 tight end in the league. The offensive line was, ranked mid-tier. I believe they're going to keep improving it on this draft. I think he's gonna have a really good offensive year going ahead. Will he win games? I don't know. Minnesota really got gutted on their defensive end. On their defensive fronts. It's gonna be an uphill battle for him most of the year, but I think he's gonna have a good offensive year.
Yeah, one last thing on Michael Penix Jr. If Kirk Cousins stays healthy, he's trade bait. Great trade bait.
100%.
That's the other thing.
I'm really happy to see McCarthy going to the Vikings. I was hoping he would be on the board when they came around. I think it's the best system for him. He's got a great team around him, some good coaching. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to be one of the better quarterbacks that comes out of that draft. When it's all said and done, he will have done better than most of them. Besides,
pick number 12, Bo Nix to the Denver Broncos. I think that is a disaster.
Yeah, I told you they were going to take Bo Nix. But
that's a disaster.
It's a trade waiting to happen.
It's tough. Look at their quarterback room right now. He doesn't really have anyone to learn from. It's Zach Wilson. I can't remember the other guy's name. He started for the last half of the year. But yeah, Bo Nix, I think he's a talented quarterback. He's going into a really bad team. with not much to look forward to.
With
With a bad coach. I'm sorry, Sean Payton, but with a bad coach.
Yeah, we don't think much of Sean Payton either. No.
You know, how much are we learning it was Drew Brees, not Sean Payton, and it was Peyton Manning, not the grumpy lobster boat captain.
And it was Tom Brady, not Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt.
No,
Yeah.
Very interchangeable. Yeah.
You know, there's a lot to be said for X's and O's, but there's a lot to be said for Jimmy's and Joe's. So just saying. Two of the teams that we usually there's three teams we usually focus on the show here. The Raiders, the Rams, and the Saints. The Raiders picked right after the Broncos, and this was a surprise to a lot of people. The Raiders, with having taken a top tight end from Notre Dame in the second round last year, went tight end with Brock Bowers from Georgia with their first round pick. And a lot of people are saying it's one of the worst picks of the first round, Christian.
I would have to disagree. I think Brock Bowers, while his draft stock did fall significantly from the first time we were hearing about him in the draft, I think he's a great talent heading into.
Hang on, let me stop you there for a second. Where was he originally projected to go? How high?
5.
Top 5.
Top 5.
Because he's that good.
Yes. The biggest, comparison I've been seeing around is Travis Kelce. He's great at blocking inside and creating a run space, but he's so much better outside the zone, catching. He finds the soft zones in the defense. He's a great offensive threat to have. My only problem is who's going to be thrown to him. Gardner Minshew, I think he's a fine quarterback. But Brock Bowers, I think it's a really good pick for when you don't have a quarterback right there that you really want. Penix was already gone. McCarthy was already gone. Nix was already gone. Brock Bowers was the best available player.
I said the Raiders should not go quarterback this year.
Yeah, it wasn't in the cards for them this year. If they wanted to trade up to get a guy like Michael Penix Jr., who I think would have been a great fit there, then
no,
they
but
would have
my
gone
whole
for it.
reasoning is the Raiders are so. Look what's going to happen to Drake May. What's going to happen to Bo Nix? They are going to get Zach Wilson. He went to a terrible team, and his confidence got destroyed, and he started seeing ghosts like Sam Darnold. And Rocky, when your confidence as an athlete gets shaken, you're not very good.
No, you're done.
Yeah.
You can't go. You can never go into any competition as athlete thinking you have a chance to lose. That was obviously in the front of Zach Wilson's mind. Christian, why did the Broncos take Zach Wilson? Tell the truth.
If you guys want my honest opinion, I think they just had too many leftover Russell Wilson jerseys and said, "Screw it, let's just bring in Zach to sell the jerseys."
Sell them all. Sell them all. Yeah,
I love what the Raiders did because they took the best available player, and he's a bargain.
There was no quarterback. There was no quarterback, so they took the best available player. I agree. They could have went defense, but they took the best available player.
Yeah. It was a one-man show. It was either Brock Bowers or, in my opinion, Latu. Still can't pronounce it.
Latu.
Yeah, Latu, who I'm very, very upset that he not come to the Rams.
Defensive linemen,
they come and go. Yeah.
Brock Bowers is projected to be a game changer at tight end.
And I think he will. And I think he fits really good in that Raiders offense.
And you put him with Michael Mayer on, remember those 2 tight end sets with the Patriots when they had Aaron Fernandez, the murderer of crazy SOB, and the Gronk baby.
Yeah.
Those sets drove teams crazy because the NFL is all about matchups. And so imagine having Devontae Adams and then those 2 tight ends and another wide receiver split out. You can't match up with it. That's a problem for defenses.
And by the way, if you do not have an all-pro quarterback, two tight ends is a huge security blanket for a young guy. Huge. Having two tight ends playing over the middle, checking down. I mean, West Coast offense, a lot of over the middle stuff is going to do a lot for their quarterbacks.
So a lot of people are criticizing what the Raiders did, but I think it was the absolute right thing to do.
I think we're going to look back in 3 years and say this was a great.
That was a great pick. Next, my New Orleans Saints. They need offensive line help. They had targeted Talise Fuaga from Oregon State, and they got the guy that they wanted. They knew they weren't going to get Joe Alt, and this was the guy that they wanted. And their biggest need was on the offensive line at tackle, and they have a plug-and-play tackle who can go in at right tackle and replace Ryan Ramczyk if the knee is a problem. And Tuaga can also play at guard if Ramczyk can play. So I think solid pick for them. But then the steal of the draft so far, I believe, Kool-Aid McKinstry goes to the Saints when I thought there was no chance in the world that he would be available. They moved up right ahead of the Texans?
Yeah.
And grabbed him. I don't know what they traded. I didn't see the details. But for the Saints to get a position of need and a plug-and-play player, and then arguably the best cornerback in the draft, that's huge.
Yeah. I kind of thought he might have gone earlier. I was even thinking the Raiders might go that way. But, great, good move, great player, great opportunity for him, there were some other pretty good moves in the draft. I think Detroit had a great draft so far. It's had a great draft. Detroit's had a great draft.
The biggest thing that has pissed me off.
Yes, sir. Spit it out.
Freaking Xavier Worthy.
Oh my God.
Damn it.
Okay, I'll take this one over right now. Xavier Worthy, in my opinion, is Tyreek Hill 2.0. He's the fastest guy in the past 20 years. 20 years.
Fastest ever.
He ran a 2.1, 4.2.
4.21. 4.21. This kid is extremely quick. And that's one thing Patrick Mahomes likes in his receiver. Rashid Rice was one of the fastest receivers last season. And the fact that the Bills traded this pick, so their arch nemesis, the Kansas City Chiefs,
it made no sense.
It made no sense to me. It made no sense at all. Big blunder on the Bills' part. Before we get too far into the show, we do talk about three teams, and the one Loud-Esmond did leave out is our Los Angeles Rams.
Go for it.
Pop, Jared Verse, edge rusher.
The Bills needed that receiver worse than anybody. They should have taken him.
Yeah, they should have.
Go ahead, Christian. Go ahead.
Los Angeles Rams take Jared Verse, the edge rusher from FSU, 6'4", 260, really big kid. He's a two-time first-team All-ACC team. How do you feel about the Rams getting this guy?
Yeah, you and I were watching that draft together. We both were very excited about that pick. I think I knew. I yelled at you. They're going to go edge. They're going to go edge right before the pick. Remember, they're going to go edge, and they did. They went edge rusher, and I like it. I love it. I think he's going to be an awesome addition to that defense. And they need it. They need it. With Aaron Donald out, they need someone to really spike some rallies in that defense. I think he's the guy that will do it. Really happy for the kid. Happy for my Rams.
Yep. And the Rams also took a defensive lineman as well, another defensive tackle out of FSU as well, Brandon Fisk. So two teammates are coming together to the Los Angeles Rams.
They did their best to shore up their defensive backfield in the offseason, and now they had to address their defense.
Man, I've got to come in for breaking news here. I am so impressed with the Raiders draft.
What have they done now?
They took center
Jackson Powers.
Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon, who, by the way, just won the award for being the best center in all of college football last year. I mean, you want to talk about a value pick?
Yeah.
You just got the best center in college football in the middle of at the latter part of the second round.
Yeah.
Look, I used to be a big Raiders fan. I would love to come back. And this is the type of thing that I said they needed to do. They are 3 years away from being a really competitive team when all that matters in the NFL is winning Super Bowls. So they took the best tight end in the draft. He was ranked in the top 5. They got him at 13. They just took a guy that was ranked in the top 20 because he was the best center in all of college football last year and got him in the middle of the second round. You know how important a center is on an NFL football team? Vital.
Yep.
Those are 2 great picks. So, boy, the Raiders are drafting really well.
Yeah,
They gave up nothing.
By the way,
they didn't move up. They didn't give up any picks. He fell to them and they took him.
for people listening, when Loud said value pick, that is an actual term that gets thrown around a lot in those rooms when they're talking about drafts. Do we take a position we need?
1 minute.
Value pick. Take the best player on the board. It just so happened it was a position they need. That's a great pick. I didn't hear. I heard about just now.
Yeah, but it just happened right now. I just saw as well. You know, one more thing: the Eagles got the best defensive back in the league, Cooper DeJean.
Oh no, he went to the
He's
Eagles.
a Philly Eagle. I hate to see it, but I'm glad he got drafted. My boy from Iowa, Cooper, hit me up on DMs again.
The Great White Hope.
The Great White Hope.
The white. He's got to be the first white defensive back drafted in the first 3 rounds in 20 years.
Yeah, he's the first white defensive back drafted in the second round since 1995. Whatever. I don't even know. Okay, moving on. We will see you guys next week to discuss the steals of this draft on Steelers Live next Friday.
Good